Welcome back, everyone. We're here for another session of Obsidian Office Hours. And so, over the couple weeks since I've been taking a break, rethinking things through, I've been thinking through how I've been approaching Obsidian Office Hours in comparison with some of the more curated content that I've been wanting to do. So, for example, we've seen that in the past, a lot of the sessions have been like first looks at different things. So basically, my first-hand reaction as well as like going through things and walking through stuff. But I'd love to also do deeper dives on specific topics. That way it can be a little bit more focused for those who are like, okay, I'm here to learn about a specific topic, like walk me through it, boom, boom, boom. And that way those can be a little bit more edited, curated, and then focused so they won't be hangout sessions, which is what this is supposed to be. And so we're gonna be evolving the Obsidian Office Hours a bit. We'll still have general topics that like I might be looking into during the session, but rather than it be more of like I'm trying to present on the topic while also answering questions midway, it's kind of a way for us to just learn about stuff together for those who kind of want to see how I'm thinking as I'm taking notes as I'm going. Then more importantly, we'll still always have the live questions and answers as always, or if anyone submits any questions, happy to answer those on the session as well. But the key thing here is that this is really a way for us to hang out, do some stuff together. It gives me a chance to also do some Obsidian cleanup or any sort of chores that I've been meaning to do. And you all can basically watch it live, see if there's anything you pick up. And then from there, I think it'll be easier to take sort of inspiration regarding specific topics or things we want to see more like close-ups on. So if there's a certain workflow that I do we want to see that people want to see a detailed walkthrough of, then that'll be easier for me to break that up. Whereas right now the Obsidian Office Hours tend to run on the longer side of YouTube content. I do know because it leans a bit closer to like the 40 to 50 minute time range, which can be a lot. But then again, if you're throwing this on in the background just to hang out, learn some stuff, that's what this session is for. And then for those who want like the kind of video where you're like sitting down watching every single thing so you can follow along and do the thing, then we'll separate that for other content. But otherwise, I just want to keep these sessions open for this kind of work and we can go from there. With that said, I say let's go ahead and dive right into today's session where we're going to be talking about the new Obsidian Properties that's been released. I would say recently, but again, it's just recently for, I think, this particular series on my channel. It's been out for a little while with the alpha channels and stuff. So you've probably seen, for those who have like keeping with Obsidian news very close, then you probably have already seen it kind of hit your radar. But I figured we'd go ahead and cover that. And then more importantly, I kind of want to figure out how it works in my workflow because I have been playing around with it here and there since it's come out because I usually try to do like the developer preview and get a sense of things. But I gotta say, I still haven't not totally convinced on how to make it work for me just yet. And so that's what we're here for. And of course, as always, for those here attending live in the session, be sure to drop your questions in the chat and happy to kind of go from there. So let's go and switch on over. All right, so bam, we are actually hit already with this new, as you can see here, this note section here called Properties. And this is the whole Obsidian Properties that we're talking about. And so basically, if we can, let me see, if we can switch to, is that source view, I think? There you go. Okay, so this is what we're actually seeing underneath the hood. You'll see that we have the actual front matter, which is great. And this is very standard for what you would expect from Obsidian. Now, at one point, the live preview included basically this front matter bit that would sit at the top. But with Obsidian Properties, understandably so, I understand the team wanted to kind of enhance the experience with that. When we switch over to live preview mode, you'll notice now that we have this sort of UI or user interface for how we can actually interface with the different properties. So there's a little less manual typing in that regard. And I imagine with this comes some APIs that programmers can use in order to interface with it, update things, and that kind of stuff. And so let's actually like a lot of things. I think the first thing we're going to do actually, if we're going to talk about like Obsidian Properties and what we can do with it, I say we jump over to the docs to see kind of what the official word from the team is and kind of go from there. So first thing first, let me go ahead and inside of my own notes, I'm just going to go ahead and actually just kick off an Obsidian Properties note. And so we can kind of take note of things from there. Okay. So let me open up, let's see, a new session here. Let's see, boom, okay. All right, so let's look up Obsidian Properties. Here we go, and then, oh, it quite literally Obsidian Properties for the rock, which makes more sense, but we're looking for the Markdown one, so maybe let's do Obsidian MD, then Properties. That's probably the better route. And sure enough, here we go. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. So I think for this stream, I usually do try to keep things a little bit on the darker. Let's see if this helps with readability. Yeah, I think we're gonna keep it on the darker theme. Usually how I do things. Again, if it becomes an issue, happy to eventually kind of set a cadence going forward. But I think the standard on most of my text editors and stuff is a darker theme anyhow. So I think we're gonna keep on this so that people going forward don't have to worry about switching it back and forth. All right, so we can see here we have like a tag journal false, so this is great. But then properties, right, can get swapped over into these things that are predefined. They can be switched into properties that we see inside of the editor. Hey, I see Drac and Dust here in the chat. Hello, it's been a little while. How's it going? Okay, so the properties is in that you can define anything you want, right? That was always the fun thing about front matter properties. You could do whatever you wanted. But there was always kind of a limitation because you couldn't necessarily tag other notes with it. You couldn't actually tag tags with it properly. It was just kind of finicky as far as how it would work. But as we can see here in the docs, it looks like they are coming out with these sort of predefined keys that can be used to make it easier to get some auto completion when it comes to using these specific things about Obsidian. Dragon is here, doing good. Honestly, things have been good. It's been a bit of a big transition. I would say the last month or so. I've been kind of rethinking a couple things, but really glad to be here live streaming and just kind of picking this back up and figuring out what I want to do regarding the content creation space and that kind of thing. So just kind of glad to just be picking it back up and working through it. So glad to have you along for the stream. Okay, so we're just talking about time. Okay. The other thing here that we have is also aliases, and for anyone who's followed me since the beginning, aliases is one of my favorite properties of Obsidian when it comes to being able to just map notes to different names, even though they point to the same thing, because frankly, what you name one note at one point might be very different from what you want to call it at another point. So you can basically put multiple names to the same file, which is fantastic, and I love it. And finally, this one, which I absolutely am not using enough of, is the CSS classes, which basically allows you to append the CSS class to the note, which allows you to do some pretty interesting stylistic elements to a page. And so there's been some pretty interesting examples of this if you're ever following the Obsidian forums where people are like, they make it look like wiki pages and that kind of stuff, which is pretty darn great. I say Trog in the chat. Hello, hello. Glad to be back at it. Thanks for being here and the support. Means a lot. Okay, so it looks like we're deprecating some stuff. We've deprecated alias. Okay, so they basically standardized. Like these are no longer good. We always do the plural, which makes sense, honestly, in the end of the day. Most of the time you're adding more than one. And so, okay, so then we have keys for Obsidian Publish. Oh, this is cool. Okay, so you can basically set these description, image. Oh, social media image. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, that's a cool, okay, I like this standardization. That's nice. But oh my gosh, is that it? I think that's it. Okay, I was expecting a little bit more. That said, that's okay. We're gonna go into my sort of analysis and what we see through this. Okay, cool. So Obsidian Properties, we've basically learned a couple things. So we have some standard classes, right? And so the main thing I just wanna take a note is that we have some standard classes regarding, so some examples here, our tags, aliases, and CSS classes. CSS names or CSS classes? CSS classes. Ha, I was right. And they deprecated the singular case of these properties. And finally, the other thing that I thought was interesting about this too is that they have these specific properties for publish. Now, to be clear, they might have always had this. I wasn't aware until recently. So there are specific properties for publish. Actually, you know what? This is where we use our linking. Obsidian Publish, which is great. And then, again, this is cool. The interesting one for me is the fact that you can have social media link images, which is actually a good convention that I like a lot. Although it's kind of interesting, they said that you can use either cover or image. It must be an absolute path from the root of Vault or an external URL. Oh, they're identical. Okay. So basically it does the OG image. Okay, yeah. So that's what I think is interesting. There are properties to specify OG image stuff. Cool. All right. Now, here's the thing. When we're thinking about Obsidian properties, which is something, honestly, that I've been struggling with since I've gotten access to them, is that you'll notice that when you add a property, there's this great sort of GUI, which is a graphical user interface, for kind of telling you other things that you've used before, right? All these other properties. And so while that's nice, so one of the things we can do is let's create a new one, right? We're going to call this one stream, right? Let's call it stream type. Because let's say I want to track whether or not I'm streaming on YouTube or streaming on Twitch, right? So let me hide some properties here. Although actually, this is one of the things that bothers me, but we'll deal with it in a second. You'll see here that you can actually change the property type. So for anyone who's used Notion or sort of those more GUI focused, basically interface focused note-taking apps, you'll see here that it is remind you of that, because what you can do is you can go in here and be like, oh, I just want to do a date, right? And then I get a date picker, which is nice, right? So that's there you go. You don't have to manually type it out. And then but however though, the thing about this is this means that we're no longer strictly inside of the YAML properties. And what do I mean by that? So if we go inside of this sort of front matter mode, you'll notice here that I created a dates property that breaks down into like when the date was created and when it was last modified. From what I can tell so far with Obsidian Properties, you can actually do this more complex syntax of front matter properties. Basically, you're only able to do top level stuff. So if we wanted to fix this, I would have to drop this back. And I think now, if we go to live preview mode, we'll see, there you go. It's been swapped over correctly, but correctly is relative because these are only strings. And so if we want to switch over to date time, looks like that did that correctly, 8:30:23, last modified, 8:30:23. Okay, so that looks good. So that's nice that it automatically converted that. I think at one point it wasn't doing that, so it's nice to see that that's been changed. So this does mean that now going forward, we don't have the option, at least for now, of creating a sort of hierarchy with your front matter properties, as far as like, again, the dates and that kind of stuff. We have aliases here, which is great because then we can call this like Obsidian Properties. Let's just call it plugin for now, for example. So there you go. You'll see that that has an actual like autocomplete, right? It's no longer just a text. And so as a result, if we go into the properties plugin, you'll see here our alias is running as correctly. But then here's the thing, we can also do tags now, right? So you can see tags, the icon is appearing as expected. And if we look at the property type, it is, as you would expect, it is a tag. And what we can do here is you'll notice that now you actually get auto-completing with your types, which is great. So in this particular case, we could say type plugin, which is great. And then we get this little pillbox, which shows you that it's been auto-completed, which is super nice, something I really enjoy. I've always enjoyed about the Obsidian ecosystem, which means a lot of the stuff that I used to be doing regarding back matter. So for those who haven't been following, sort of new to this concept, I had this whole like list of things in the back that I would basically link to regarding the type, the yada yada. And now all that stuff really can be dropped up here in the top, which is nice. Because now you don't have to worry about basically like you can leverage the auto completion while also associating with the note. The only downside to this approach, however, is that all your tags are going to be lumped together. So in terms of like where in the back matter, I came up with like kind of information architecture for how to organize it by date, by rating, by all this stuff. You won't be able to query by those things anymore necessarily, which absolutely can be totally fine. Just know that that's something you won't be able to do as easily if you want to say using your data view plugin, be able to be like, oh, I want to actually go inside of the mode and make sure I query like mode, like, engineer, right? Now you just only have to query like whether the note contains that tag, which is not the same equivalent of whether or not it is equivalent of a value inside of an inline field. So that is a little bit different. That said though, as I'm saying this, I just realized, let's just say we did want a mode property, and the mode here this time was going to be, oh, interesting. I actually can't change that into a tag. So I can't be like mode engineer because this is just text right now. So you don't get that autocomplete bit, which is kind of interesting. Yep, list number, oh, this is a list. Yeah, that's fine. But nope, just regular text here. It does look like, though, what's kind of interesting is you could maybe get some auto-completion. So we say like pilot, engineer, and then what I had, researcher. I'm curious now, if I split open the note and I open like my sandbox note, this time we're gonna insert some properties, and I'm going to do a mode. Okay, this is actually a really big win that I do like a lot, is that one of the reasons I was using tags in the back matter in that way is because it was hard to, basically like you get type guarantees, and by that I mean you get auto completions that work, so you were less likely to make mistakes in your typing and therefore it made it easier. However, now that we have it like this actually changes a lot of my notes, because now I would want a status. I'm just gonna have a status property that basically says like whether it's backlog in progress. So like this, so now if I add a status property here, you'll see in progress like this. And this is great because this now means that if I wanted to, all right, just to make things easier, we're gonna call this type temporary stream because I don't wanna break the stuff. But if we're doing the data view thing, we can query a, let's see, table, all right, let's do a list first from everything that's type temporary stream. And you see there, as we expect, 2 notes show up. But if we do table now and we add a status property, you'll see now that we actually get the string in progress, which is super nice. And it now means that if I come in here and I'm no longer that, it's in the backlog. There we go. Now it's updated. And so if we say group by, I think, oh, this won't totally work. I think it's gonna break a little bit. Yeah, I forgot. When you do group by, this is one thing about the syntax for data view, you have to like specify how it groups, and it's, personally, I would have thought that group by would have just done headings of the different things grouped automatically, but that's a tangent, neither here nor there. So what's cool about this now is that a lot of the things that I had set up for basically safeguarding the different properties and that kind of stuff, it kind of goes away, to be honest, because now we can standardize on these properties that live on top. And so what's nice here is we can see actually is you can hide and, let's see, you can collapse them. So properties can be collapsed for easier viewing. And so this is actually cool because this actually means that a lot of my back matter might actually end up disappearing, to be quite honest. The only thing, let me see, actually I'm gonna put a section for like requests because these are just like my notes, right? So let's see, these are notes, these are requests. And so we'll use the prayer symbol, like you're praying for something that might happen. So the ability to display a subset of properties. Because there are some properties that, to be quite honest, I would prefer to just kind of have available to me at any given time. And especially if it starts getting long, you can see it's a lot that you got to navigate through. And so, okay, that's good. So that's a huge improvement then, right? So ability to autocomplete and have properties save their values is a big win. So this is great. We've settled that. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Okay, cool. Now, here's the other thing that I've run into that is a little bit annoying, at least that I've seen so far, is that I'm not totally sure how templating works with this new system. So what do I mean by that? So I have this, let me see, let me collapse this. Let me do a base note. Okay, so I have this giant base note template that I do. And so if you're looking at this and you think, oh my God, this looks like gibberish, don't worry about it right now. The main thing that I want to focus on is that basically if I create a new note that I use this template called starter note page template. And so you see starter note page template here uses some standard templater things. We have a snippet here for the front matter template where the cursor should begin. And then we have a type that is automatically attributed to the note. Now that this is actually changing though, this is actually making me rethink things a little bit. So let's start by going over to the front matter template. And so we can see here that immediately it's already being parsed as like this kind of block right here. And so if we come inside of here, can I manually, let's see, let's do this. Let's do the source mode. This will be easier to edit. So if I come inside of here, I guess what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have to do @created. I'm gonna need some sort of way, okay, created on, last modified on. I think that'll have to be my prefix for dates. Or sorry, not prefix, suffix. Last modified on. Although I noticed this is actually, in kebab case, so we can, if you're parsing the YAML strings, I think I do prefer it camel case, or sorry, kebab case. Last modified on. Okay, just like that. Then we have a tags here, and then type note like this. I think this will work. So we go to live preview mode, we'll see, oh, this is interesting. It doesn't have an actual value. And so I wonder if the reason for that here is, yeah, I think it's because I prefixed it. But if we go now to live preview source mode, there you go. Now it's actually showing up, which is good. Okay, so let's test this out now. And so we create a new file and we call it sandbox, sandbox note, but this time it'll be August 2023. Oh, that's not what I want at all. Sandbox note, August 2023, just like that. And we create it. Okay, it looks like our front matter did populate correctly. We have all this stuff, last modified on, oh, you know what though? These are strings, I do need to modify that. So let's go ahead and delete this file and let's rethink this one through a bit. This one actually needs to be property type. Is this gonna work? Ooh, I hope this works. Property type date time, okay. UID, date time, aliases, tags. Okay, so once again, let's go into source. So what's interesting though is that there is nothing inside of the front matter that indicates what type it is. So there's no like syntax to let them know that's what you intend on. So that's a little bit annoying from that regard. So I do kind of want to make a note. Let's see, maybe ability to specify property type in advanced via front matter, question mark. I don't know how feasible that really is. Because if you're looking at it from like a programmatic perspective, you can't just come in here and just assume that there'll be dates unless like, I guess you could check to see if the output, I don't know. It's complicated to say the least. But okay, let's try this one more time. So we have, we're gonna create a new note. This will be sandbox note and we'll make this sandbox note 400, create it, there we go. The type did work correctly, 254, this looks good. August 30th, UUID looks great. Aliases, that looks good. Tags looks good. So I think the only thing now to really change is the base note template. Oh, starter note is what I called it. I think we can get rid of this metadata. And now, if we okay, here we go. If we reinsert this, if I insert my starter note, you're gonna notice something kind of interesting, is that it literally throws in the text, like the string here that's supposed to be the front matter. And then it kind of, well, that's actually all there is to it really. And so you kind of have to manually delete it, which is a little bit awkward for me, I find, because it means that every time I go to create a note now, if it starts as a starter note and I want to switch the template, so let's say sandbox note is supposed to now be a restaurant and I want to insert my restaurant template, you'll notice here that like this stuff doesn't really work anymore. So a question I have here is how to properly integrate with templater. Let's see. Obsidian templater plugin. Because that, oh, actually, why am I even closing that? That is something I'm not sure really how that works just yet. And so I don't know, it's kind of curious to me because it means that, I don't know, it means, I guess, could we select as plain text? Nope, that wasn't it. Because here's the thing, right? Okay, let's say I want to delete the entire note. What you would normally expect is you would say Command A or Control A if you're on PC, and then just delete, and then it's fine. But you'll notice that I'm trying to hit, or if you can hear it, I'm trying to hit delete. I'm trying to figure out a way to delete, and so I guess I could do it like this. Is that not doing it? That's not doing it either. I can select multiple ones clearly, but delete doesn't work. So the only way I can't do, so I can't bookmark this block, I can't delete it. I can come in here and left click each of these, but that seems oddly inefficient. So it's almost like I almost have to toggle to source mode and then delete it. And then inside of here, then do restaurant, I think. Then I could afford to switch this to restaurant and then live preview it. And now we're good. So the workflow here then is a little bit awkward because you basically have to toggle to the edit source in order to get in there and kind of switch it up a little bit, which I don't love, to be honest. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know how I'd want to do that going forward. It's kind of tricky because then in the past I would literally just Command A, delete everything, and it would be good to go. But now, yeah, now this is a little bit tricky. So let's see, that. It's making me think the whole frontmatter template bit as well, because when we think of it from a live edit source mode, it's not always a note. So am I ultimately better off not adding a type to it and always manually typing the note myself? Oh, but that seems tricky. Almost like, yeah, I don't love it. Anyway, so you can see here, type restaurant. I mean, these are all these properties that I would recommend. So it's almost like I really should, I can't really reuse the frontmatter template anymore because everything kind of needs to be a little bit bespoke. That said though, the restaurant template is inspiring a conversation that I also wanted to have regarding Obsidian Properties. So actually, let's see. So let's call this, I'm gonna say task for now. But, so we looked at a couple of things, right? Ability to delete properties easily. Okay, so ability to link to notes within frontmatter. This was always something that I kind of wished worked as intended. So in other words, if we had our frontmatter properties template here, and let's say one of the things we wanted to do was like we had a relationship one. Okay, so from here, what if we wanted all of our notes to always have the relationship with Obsidian? Okay, so it's like this. Oh, okay. Obsidian, and I'm just gonna do something funky now. Oh, wait. It's not gonna do multiple ones? View. Oh, no, that really broke. Did not like that. Okay, so we're seeing some limitation on the string. Actually, okay, don't try to break everything at once. Okay, so we have this Obsidian, which is linking correctly. Hey, that's actually exciting because this actually is the big thing that we had trouble doing in the past with frontmatter. So if that's really the case, then what this means to me is that we then can say create a new note, sandbox 600, and then Obsidian note is linked. And if we look here, sandbox 600, okay. Oh, okay. This might be the tipping point, and I think they had pitched this already, but I didn't quite grasp it at the time. What this tells me then is that inside of the frontmatter, personally, I might do something called a list, and I call it topics. And so from topics, can I do other stuff? Let's see. Let's just say view, for example. Yeah. Data view inline fields. Okay. So you can add different topics to it, which would be great, because then if we look, oh, actually, I'm curious now. If we do it at the live source mode, you'll see that, okay, it's stringed everything out, stringified, and then it's just basically doing that thing, and then Obsidian knows to parse everything inside of here programmatically, which is super great. That's super great. So again, just to try this out, sandbox 800. Oh, everything's linked together. Okay, this is super cool. Okay, I think that might have been the push I needed. Okay, super, super cool. So then, again, let me make sure I don't mess this up. We don't need all this stuff. Delete, 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 delete. Okay, so we have topics now. What's interesting though is that, okay, this is where we slightly a downside. It means that anytime, basically the topics will grow to like almost a very, very large autocomplete list, which is totally fine. But that is a side effect that will happen as a result of their approach of anything you've entered in this field before will now be able to, what am I trying to say? it will be available for querying later on from like an autocomplete perspective, which is fine because especially for something like topics, every node tends to have relationships to different topics that you kind of just want to quickly, whether it's a tag or something that you want to quickly throw on. So I like this from a perspective because you're encouraging, let's see, can I rearrange this? How do I rearrange? Okay, good, I can drag. I usually, for some reason, tags is something that I think maybe from just growing up in the web days, tags always sat at the bottom, so I think that's how I'm gonna arrange mine. I can easily switch this up. I do wish that I could have just used my hashtag like this. Oh, that did work, but I lost my autocomplete, which I don't love. Anyways, I have such a habit of using the hash mark whenever I'm doing that. But anyhow, okay, so we have topics, we have aliases, and tags. I think that does the trick, honestly. So that means going forward, we can do this. Yep, that's basically the main things. Oh, you know what though? Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when we're thinking about, where's my properties? Obsidian Properties notes. Things that I want to be able to do. Okay, let's see. So link notes we're able to do. That's not actually able to do. But group properties by a heading. This is kind of similar to the first request. Because I can just imagine you can go bonkers with this. Like especially that I was mentioning with the restaurants and stuff. There's nothing stopping you from going pretty far regarding its location and that kind of stuff. Which is great because now you can rely on the standard YAML property to when you're processing things. Because I will say one of, I see, MHrock here in the chat. Yeah, so the way, regarding the topic list, the way it works is it actually is looking at any other note. Oh, sorry, by saying looking, I mean, I imagine Obsidian is actually caching all this stuff in advance. But basically, there are other notes I have already inside of Obsidian that are using the topics that are actually using this data view. Like these are things that actually previously existed inside of topics at some point or another. These I think are more recent. So I'm a little surprised they're showing up because I've technically deleted, oh, you know what though? No, I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. Oh, no, because Sandbox, because Sandbox has this stuff. So if I wipe this stuff out and then I look at topics again, you'll see that's disappeared. So now if I go inside of Obsidian, we'll see Sandbox 600 has it, so I'll delete that relationship. Then if we look at the topics again, actually, I'm just gonna add it here. Obsidian's still actually being called somewhere. So we can actually open that up real quick. So let's see, we've noticed here it's being mentioned in a bunch of stuff here. Oh, because of this, so the topic is being translated. Is it? Hold up. I don't think plugin. Programming is technically linked here, so Yep. So anyways, as far as I can tell, it is linking to existing topics as you go, which is kind of nice because for those of us doing the note taking, there probably are recurring topics that show up every now, like consistently as a theme. And so as much as I might have earlier said that it might get like super long, super big, to be honest, it actually would say a lot about the kind of things you're interested in. And over time, I could totally imagine like an infographic where you cluster the topics together. And what am I talking about? We have graphs that let you do that. So the more you cluster things by topics, I think we'd naturally see that graph relationship. And so to be clear, for those who are new to Obsidian, if we did the local graph relationship, you'll see here that Obsidian, the more it starts to get included in different topics, the more plausible it will be that we can actually see greater clustering of things around stuff, which is actually pretty cool, a pretty like natural way of doing it. Because one of the things I always found a little bit tricky about at least my style of note taking is that even though I was talking about a specific note or a specific category, I didn't always think to immediately link to certain things. But when I thought of topics, it was quick to be like, oh, this is about programming, front end, this is about Vue, this is about whatever. Like boom, 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 boom. But that's not how I'm taking the notes. This could prompt more relationship building, which is super nice. And so I'm super happy about that. And so thinking of this, actually, now that I'm looking at this, Again, this is why this is a little bit awkward. If I wanted to update and edit the property, so I'd have to toggle this, I'm pretty sure. Insert, insert front matter, like this. Then from here, grab this, drop that here. Oh, this is so manual though. Oh, I wish it wasn't like this. Okay, like that. Oh, no, that's not what I want at all. Like this. Then we can live preview. Okay, better now. But, you know, I would probably want to link to note-taking. There we go. Okay. And then, heck, I could even type note. I think we can type, I forgot, type app. There we go. Okay. I mean, even, can I do app slash? Okay, so it even does a subset of autocompletion, which is pretty nice. App note-taking, yeah, I'm not gonna, I've always questioned the legitimacy of using a ton of children within a nesting of a tag structure. So even this alone is great because now Obsidian is properly tagged correctly. And this is, I will say, this is a criticism of my back matter strategy that I have, which was way down here. So now actually I can get rid of that. Is that it got lost. It tended to get lost on the bottom. And while there's nothing, I still like certain properties like this being able to be in here, but at the same time, I don't know, it's interesting. One of the things I liked about the back matter though was that you could kind of pick and choose what you would include as like meta attributes to the note. Because up here, you can imagine like, I guess I could just keep adding stuff by who recommended what, theoretically. It's just, the properties become tricky. That's my, hey, I see Cassidy in the chat. What up, what up? Okay, I had topics in the back matter and various complements plugin dynamically find those. What? Holy shit, what up? Hey, okay. Hold up. Various complements, say what? Community plugins. What is this magic? Enables you to autocomplete words. No. What? All right, hang on. Copy, share link. This is for anybody in the chat who, oh, nope, I can't. OBS does not let me chat. Okay, anyways, it's fine. We're gonna drop this inside of Obsidian Office Hours as a resource for everyone in the chat later on. Yeah, I'll deal with that later. That's fine. All right, so we got the complement plugin, boop, on. Okay, options, hotkeys, enables you to create it. Do I need to do anything else? Before creating pull request, requirement task init. Yeah, no, that's not what I'm worried about. Complement, does it have settings? Various complements, here we go. Strategy default, yeah, let's go English only. Ooh, actually, I do have Chinese notes in here. I'm actually, you know what? Screw it, I'm leaving it on default. Prefix partial. Okay, I do like that. Fuzzy match min score. What? Oh, this is pretty cool. Okay, hold up. Appearance show match strategy. Suggestion key, enter. Oh my god, there's a lot in here. Hold up. There's going to be a whole topic on this one. But, okay. MHROC here. We got it to dynamically find those topics? Like, hold up. How do I... nope, that's not what I want at all. Various... Okay, so suggestions is command space. Okay, let's try that. Command space. No, okay, because I have command space that's linked to something else. That's totally fine. At this point, we won't worry about the hotkeys. I did it. I did the thing. Hide suggestions, sure. Predictable complement, reload custom dictionaries, toggle automatically, add a word to a custom dictionary. Okay, note to self, this is something to look into. Look into this. Because I would love, one of the things actually that's been on my mind for other Obsidian stuff is people talk about local machine learning, AI to kind of like go through your notes. The biggest reason I had not hopped on that bandwagon, to be quite honest, is my big thing about Obsidian is respecting data privacy. And most of the chatbots out there, the AI stuff, they tend to send data to someone else. And while I'm sure there are plenty of good actors, there are unfortunately lots of bad actors as well. And this is already, Notes are already private enough as it is. So until I feel comfortable knowing I have like a local language learning model that like only runs on your machine and doesn't send it to anyone else, and like no one's gonna take it and do nefarious things with it, like I cannot in good conscience recommend anything on the channel just yet. But you can rest assured that as I'm seeing this stuff, playing around with it, the moment I do find something that can like do this kind of stuff, and Various Compliments looks like a beginner version of this, where it's like, I'm assuming it like learns your notes and maybe like can suggest topics or whatever. I don't know, but I'm super excited to look into that at some point. So big shout out to MA Trog. Thank you so much for mentioning that plugin. I will take a look. But in the meantime, I do like the fact that the properties here allows us to do a lot of different stuff. Now again, this is gonna get long real quick, I think, because anyone who likes to tinker and deal with like properties and just sort of like categorize stuff, this is like a deep rabbit hole. And so again, our saving grace here is that we can hide the properties. But that said, I think this does make it a little bit tricky because I can't, let's see, nope. So it's not like I can't like hide properties, specific properties. So that's something that I think Notion popularized, where we could come in here and be like, oh, this property, like go ahead and like hide from view, like collapse in view. So there would be a show hidden that would be under here, which to be honest, I would not be shocked if the team eventually implemented, that you could basically hide certain things that you really don't need to see half the time. So for example, the UUID for me is something that's static, created, even last modified. Those are things I don't really need to see until like I actually need it. So it would be nice to be able to hide certain properties to see them till later. That being said, okay, yeah, okay, so, okay, so that's like a high level of what we've seen properties done. We've seen it in some practical applications in terms of creating notes, but then modifying notes. It's a little bit funky with the live source preview, I would say, if you want to delete the front matter. Now you gotta like switch it to code view in order to get a clean delete of everything. Otherwise, the GUI does limit you to manually being like, okay, stream type, remove, and then I don't no longer need topics, remove, and then status, remove, like a little bit more tedious. And so as we try to speed up note creation, it would be nice for certain things to be more standard. So I'll have to play around and see what I want to do. Currently, I've always actually been a little bit at a rut with that anyhow. So most likely, I imagine, is I would stop using a front matter partial. In other words, just to be clear, actually, just so that people can see, rather than having this sort of front matter template that gets inserted into various notes. So again, let's continue to just demonstrate this. The page template here automatically pulls this front matter template from this specific template. So that's what I mean by a partial, for those who haven't been using, like, aren't heavily involved in the programming world. This is nice, but ultimately it seems that because each page template that I've created usually does have specific properties that I care about, it ultimately probably makes sense for me to just manually create each front matter, tailor it, and have it there so that it is actually being populated correctly. That is probably something I'll be doing, and once I do that and have a good system, I'll demo that for everyone to see what they think, and then more importantly, I'll make sure those are available for people to copy and download completely open source for everyone to check out. That said, we still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to talk about the number one thing that's bothering me, actually, about the whole properties thing that's been sitting with me for some time. But, actually, let me see if this works. Okay, click. If you've noticed, my notes, like let's take Obsidian, has a very specific width for the page width. But properties is this ginormous full width thing that also, frankly, bumps right up against the sidebar. And so really what I'd like to do is let me look at this real quick. If we look at this wrapper, so apologies for those. So we're doing a little bit of debugging right now because we're trying to learn a little bit about how we can make our thing look correctly. Okay, so it looks like we have this, so basically we have this ability to, I'm gonna copy this particular property, max width, folding offset, sure. There's a bunch of variables that take into account here. The thing I want to be able to do, though, is understand how to get this properties block, which looks like, if we pay attention here, it looks like it is this metadata container. So if I hide this, it's collapsed. Okay, this looks good. So this means the metadata container now would theoretically need a max width property, which is this. And if I do that, does that do anything? It did not, because it's still sitting full width. Properties heading, this thing. Oh, come on, I want to constrain you. Max width 600 pixels. Yep. Oh, wait a second, hold up. I think I had the right idea. Margin 0 auto. Oh, death. Where did everything go? Oh no, I broke it. Okay, hang on. I thought I could just center it, but no, did not like that. Inline title. Look, the title is good. Look at this. It sits, it does a width, it has a max width, margin right, auto, margin left. Oh my gosh, do I need to have this as part of the property container? Seems like a theme bug. There's a new metadata max width. Okay, this looks way better. Okay, metadata max width. Okay, cool. So yes, okay. Actually, to Leishi's point, to be clear, yes, I do think there's a bug within the theme. This is not actually a commentary on the properties part of Obsidian itself. This is just my theme has been doing this. It has been bothering me since I've had it. I have not, unfortunately, have not taken the time to figure this out. But let's check this out real quick. Metadata max width. Okay. Interesting. So let's do a width var metadata. Ooh, there's a background too. What? Okay. Max. Oh, yep, there is a thing here. So metadata max width, it looks like that's okay, so that's good. But it looks like we need to set it then, right? So it's something like dun 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 dun. Bum bum bum. Metadata, whoops, metadata max width. And then the max width is, let's just make it really small right now, 200 pixels. Okay, that's great. So we have like 600 pixels. That does one aspect of it, which is good, because now we can see clearly that it's collapsed on itself. However, it's not centering. And so I guess I had made the false assumption that I could just margin 0 auto it. But is that because, I mean, this is a block, is it not? So if I display block, yeah, I know. So then I could, let me try one more time, 0 auto. Oh no, that worked. So maybe because it wasn't a display block earlier that it just broke something funky. But this looks way better. So let's see, let's max with this. Yep. Oop, I broke something. Let's do this. Calc vert minus offset. Oh, I lost something. That's fine. Okay. But this already looks significantly better. Yeah, it's not exactly right because this here is the problem. Oh, that is it. Okay, so this thing was giant. Okay, so we've learned, okay, so I clearly need to update the theme to be able to do this. How, okay, that's it. Okay, let's refresh all of this because this is, yeah, okay. So my first thing though, actually I want to take a look at is the appearance because the team is usually really good about this stuff. So the minimal theme probably has like a small bug on it. Although in fact, now that I think about it, can I actually check to see if there's an update on this? Bump, bump, bump. Ha! Ah, classic software mistake, developer mistake. Clearly it was a problem at one point and now it's totally fine because the minimal theme, of course. This is also one of the reasons why I did not ultimately embark to do my own theme is because to be honest with myself, I had not had the time to manage a full theme and make sure it's up to date for everyone. So as we can see here, the metadata container, although I'm curious how they solved this because the developer in me is super curious. So there's a max width, line width, sure. Oh, here we go, meta display editing. Yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't use the metadata max width property, but that's okay. It's doing the right thing anyways. So yeah. So okay, so it's interesting. We get a couple of things, a couple of lessons learned actually out of this. So one, backwards compatibility at all points. One of the things, I think we can switch over to full screen, actually full camera at this point, because I think we're getting to the wrap up point, and I'd like to kind of talk about this a bit more. Okay, so couple things we actually end up learning out of my little, like, I'll call it self-induced misery, is that one, true to its word, one of the reasons I keep pushing Obsidian, I don't know about pushing, I keep sharing Obsidian with people that I think would make a lot of great use of it, because as we saw earlier, even though I didn't, how do I put this? I was clearly not on the latest and greatest of the theme, but if I had never connected to the internet again, that is okay, because Obsidian would still work on my machine regardless. And so I could have manually gone in there, put some CSS, fixed it to whatever I wanted it to, and I would have probably at some point gotten it to something like this, which would have been fine. But the backwards compatibility bit of all of this is one of the things that I think makes Obsidian still an extremely compelling, or it makes for a very compelling argument for why this whole concept of software that doesn't just break because either the developers abandoned it, the project is no longer, like, it just works, and it continues to work because all the packages and stuff are saved to your workspace basically, and you have your instance of it, and if you never want to upgrade again, you don't ever have to, and you're working with plain text files anyways, so you own your data. I mean, I go on this rant a couple times every time, but that was a perfect example of it. Now, granted, induced me my own stress and unnecessarily caused pain. But this then goes to show you the flip side of that argument, and why, for those who are using Obsidian, and if you can, support, please, the team, whether it's through using some of their services. Again, I love the Obsidian Sync, but whether you can make a donation to them just to help continue the amazing work that they're doing. Like, they're also releasing a ton of cool new stuff. And so clearly my Obsidian was up to date, but my theme was out of date. And so once I got those updated, of course, why would I shock that once I updated the minimal theme, everything fixed itself? I mean, beautiful. So anyhow, this is great. Woo! I did not expect to resolve that so quickly. I thought we would get to roughly a root cause and I'd have to bookmark it for later to fix. But now I can just, this is so much easier on the eyes. I can't tell you how much I kept staring at my properties just flush left all the way to my sidebar. It goes to show what, anyways. Okay, cool. So for this session, we had the chance of picking the Obsidian office hours back up, and then just taking a look at stuff, learning about new features together, and then exploring things. And again, for those who are looking for your more curated content, I'm hoping to eventually carve more space for that out in the future, so that if someone's like, I want to learn about Obsidian Properties, tell me what it is, how to use it, and some best practices in a 10-minute video, that is going to be a separate kind of thing. So that is a wrap for this week's Obsidian office hours. Again, what I'll do is I'll try to set things up so that there is a way for you all to funnel questions in advance, because while I'm figuring out the schedule, I still want to hear from you all. If you have any scenarios or you want to hear my take on specific things, more than happy to do that on these sessions. But in the meantime, hope everyone is doing well. Thanks everyone again. It's been a lot of fun, and I'll talk to you later. Bye everyone.